in popcorn.
Countess Olenska.
The Age of Innocence.
Gun! Get down! Get down! Get down!
In the Line of Fire.
It says, see here, you must come to China and meet them and tell them all about their mother.
The Joy Luck Club. What do these three movies have in common? Each contains an aspect of filmmaking that either Roger or I, or maybe both of us, think is worthy of an Oscar nomination, and reminding Academy members which films and which performances they should be nominating next month is the focus of this annual special edition of Siskel and Ebert called Memo to the Academy. We'll also have interviews on the Oscar race with likely nominees and possible winners, Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. In the Best Actor category, I think there are three actors who seem to be pretty much certain of being nominated. One is Tom Hanks for Philadelphia, and the other two are Anthony Hopkins for either The Remains of the Day or Shadowlands, and Daniel Day-Lewis for either The Age of Innocence or In the Name of the Father. In my memo to the Academy about this category, though, there was one actor I hope they don't overlook, and that's Laurence Fishburne for one of the most powerful performances of the year in What's Love Got to Do with It. He starred as band leader Ike Turner, who was good news and bad news for his wife, Tina. He helped develop her singing style and make her a star, but in their private life, he was violent and abusive, refusing to recognize his wife's needs, seeing her only as his ticket to the top.
Now we here, we at the place I've been trying to get to my whole life. We got the right song at the right place at the right time. Now I need you to get out on that stage right now.
Laurence Fishburne has been a fine actor for years, but in What's Love Got to Do with It, he commanded the screen, making Ike Turner seem like an elemental force of nature and ego. The dynamics between Turner and his wife, played by the equally brilliant Angela Bassett, seemed real and tragic and very personal. We didn't simply see a husband mistreating his wife. We saw two people who were entwined in a volatile personal chemistry. And this movie came out last summer.
Right.
Often the Academy has a short attention span. That's what this memo was for, to jog that attention span.
Absolutely. It also came out during the release of Jurassic Park,
Yes,
which just
did.
blew it away for the general audience, I'm afraid, or they thought it was too violent. They missed a great film.
Yeah.
What he does is he plays Ike Turner as more than just the cruel guy, as you were saying.
Yeah.
He also is a talented musician, and he does get the performance out of her, the positive performance out of her.
Yes,
so you see something else going on in
You
the role.
understand why they stayed together, as well as why they split up.
There were positive things in the relationship, too. Okay, my selection of a deserving Best Actor who is likely to be overlooked is Clint Eastwood for In the Line of Fire. I think this is superior, rich, textured work by a man who fills the motion picture frame like few actors in history. He was nominated last year for his performance in Unforgiven, but I think this performance is better because of its broader range, from romance to comedy to action. My favorite scene, and please focus on his timing in it, is when he has a romantic conversation with Secret Service colleague Rene Russo in front of the Lincoln Memorial. This is one of the all-time great movie pickup scenes.
So if I'm here to court the feminist vote, what demographics do you represent?
See, white piano-playing heterosexuals over the age of 50. There ain't a whole lot of us, but we do have a powerful army.
That is just beautifully done. I also admire a fine scene in the picture where Eastwood breaks down back to camera. We don't need to see his face, and he knows it because his ever so slightly heaving back is a lot more compelling than the front of most other actors. Just because In the Line of Fire is popular escapist entertainment, I hope Eastwood's acting colleagues won't ignore him this time. Sometimes, you know, they think, well, we gave him the big honor last year, so forget this. Yeah, there aren't actors that can do this work.
It's like the Academy Awards is in the business of spreading it around, and you shouldn't spread it around. If somebody's good, let him be good 2 years in a row.
Have you ever seen anything like that? I mean,
no, it was a wonderful film. And you know, another person they might forget, and of course last summer everybody said, oh, John Malkovich will be nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but the problem is 6 months later it's like it's a classic already. People have forgotten it. It didn't come out in December. they don't. Which movie was that? I don't remember that. So I hope that they remember both Malkovich and Eastwood.
Great.
Yeah.
When we come back, we both name performances we hope don't get overlooked in the Best Actress category.
What is your name?
Ada, wait. Do you know how to bargain?
Returning to our annual Memo to the Academy, where we tell the Academy membership who they should be nominating. That's Holly Hunter as a mute woman who communicates through her music, causing Harvey Keitel to fall in love with her in The Piano. And Holly Hunter in The Piano is a shoo-in to be nominated as Best Actress, along with, I think, Deborah Winger in Shadowlands and Michelle Pfeiffer in The Age of Innocence. But who might be ignored that I think is worthy? At the top of the list, Roger mentioned her, Angela Bassett, for her extraordinary performance as the storm-tossed Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It? First, in song. And also in dramatic scenes where she has been abused by husband Ike, Laurence Fishburne.
Means you're going to walk out of here with absolutely nothing.
Except my name. I'll give up all that other stuff, but only if I get to keep my name.
I'll tell you how good Angela Bassett was. At the end of this film, we get to see the real Tina Turner in the picture, and my reaction then was, and it is now, is that necessary? I felt I had seen the real thing with Angela Bassett, a brilliant technical and emotional piece of work.
Well, Gene, I feel just as strongly about Angela Bassett as I did about Larry Fishburne in my choice for Best Actor, and I agree with you totally. This is a woman who should be nominated for Best Actress. Yeah. I think it's one of the, really, in terms of musical biopics, it's probably the best performance I've seen. Another actress I hope the Academy doesn't overlook this year is Ashley Judd, who hit a home run in her very first starring role in a wonderful movie called Ruby in Paradise. She played a young woman who flees from a life that she hates and moves to Florida, determined to be independent and support herself. And through a process of trial and error, she finds out who she is and what she wants.
I grew up with the security and certainty of living in the law. I also know the guilt and shame it can bring. Nothing is ever going to get that kind of hold on me again.
Ruby in Paradise is one of the best coming-of-age movies I've ever seen. It was written and directed by Victor Nunez, and together he and Ashley Judd create a convincing, intelligent woman that we like very much. The New York Film Critics Circle and the National Society of Film Critics both voted her first runner-up to Holly Hunter in their Best Actress voting, and I can only hope the Academy voters don't overlook this performance.
They won't overlook it if they see the picture, and that's the challenge, and I guess that's why it makes sense for these companies to send out videos. This is a small company. I wonder if they're sending out this performance.
Well, I'll tell you, I know because I was out in L.A., as I think you were, over the holidays, and I talked to a lot of people in the Academy who were complaining, oh, in the old days we got 3 or 4 videos, now we get 100 videos. You know, a studio will send them a dozen videos. So they all have these big stacks of videos. I hope they run down the list, look for Ruby in Paradise, and pop that into the VCR if you want to see a great performance.
What is so special about it is the natural quality to it. Think about it. Here's a young woman who's making her motion picture debut. There would be a tendency to, and this is, she's the center of the picture, there'd be a tendency to push the performance. She's laid back, natural, just like the movie is about her life.
She knows exactly what she's doing in this film, and so does the director.
It's a good piece of work. Coming up next, Roger and I will roam across many different categories to find more fine work worthy of Oscar nominations.
Turning to our annual Memo to the Academy, in which Gene and I tell the Academy voters who we think they should nominate for Oscars, an actress I hope the Academy voters don't overlook as they make their nominations in the supporting actress category is Anna Paquin, who plays Holly Hunter's daughter in The Piano. As I said in my original review of this film, she gives one of the most extraordinary examples of a child's acting in movie history.
She says it's her piano and she won't have him touch it. He's an oaf, he can't read, he's ignorant.
Another nomination I hope the Academy makes this year is for The War Room for Best Documentary. The annual documentary nominations are notoriously slipshod, and it's almost routine for the best possibilities to be overlooked. It's almost like they want it to happen that way. Well, I hope that doesn't happen with The War Room, a behind-the-scenes record of the Clinton presidential campaign, showing media director George Stephanopoulos and campaign director James Carville in unguarded, revealing moments as they plot their strategy.
Well, you know, most campaigns, it takes them 2 days, you know, to get a spot out and run it. So, okay, you're right. You're right.
What was the last line?
Amanda's great.
Read my
Amanda's
lips,
great. She's great.
What was the last line?
Read my lips. No, sir. This time we're going to read the record.
And finally, here's a nomination the Academy almost certainly won't make, but they should. I think they should nominate young Robert Rodriguez in the cinematography category for his work on El Mariachi. Now, here was a 22-year-old kid with no money or connections who took a cheap camera into his own hands and wrote, directed, edited, and photographed a movie that cost a total of $7,000. But look at this virtuoso passage. The average shot in this scene is barely more than a second long. Cinematography is about a lot more than great chase scenes and beautiful sunsets. It's also about knowing how to use a camera to tell a story under all sorts of handicaps. And Rodriguez used his camera to make a $7,000 movie that was good enough to get a theatrical release and entertaining enough to gross several $million from people who liked it, no matter what it cost. Now, that ought to be worth something at Oscar time.
Well, I think those are good selections. I might say that he deserves it even more for the editing category than for the actual cinematography category, because that's what that sequence really displays.
Yeah.
In terms of young actors, Anna Paquin certainly deserves a nomination. There's an actor in the leading category, a young actor, Jesse Bradford in King of the Hill. That was, again, a character who isn't a kid. He's young, but he's not a kid. He has great stresses on him in his life. So those are good choices.
1993 was a terrific year at the movies, and especially for young actors. We could go down a list and probably come up with 8 or 9 really good young
those are good selections. Coming up next, more terrific movies that the Academy should not forget this year. Of Oscar-caliber work that shouldn't be overlooked as Academy members make their nominations. They just got their ballots a week ago. In the supporting actor category, I'm recommending Jeff Daniels as Union Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, a fascinating real-life character in Gettysburg. I don't think the Academy voters are going to slug their way through a 4-hour movie, but if they only get through the first half of this picture, they will see the best performance in this Civil War epic.
Some came mainly because we were bored at home. Thought this looked like it might be fun. Some came because we were ashamed not to. Many of us came because it was the right thing to do.
In the supporting actress category, I hope the Academy doesn't forget Tsai Chin, who played the tough-as-nails Auntie Lindo in the Joy Luck Club. I hope Academy voters don't overlook her because she's not a household name. Tsai Chin, I'm going to repeat that, Tsai Chin, here in a typical argument with her daughter.
I like Rich, of course I do. To allow him to marry such a daughter.
In the technical categories, I'd like to single out the special visual effects by Richard Conway in Map of the Human Heart, particularly the recreation of the World War II bombing of Dresden, Germany. Here, he mixes new and archival footage in a sequence that makes this movie come alive.
What have we done?
Richard Conway's special effects work. Typically, when you think of an Oscar for special effects, they invariably go to big-budget action pictures. This is a little film, but it used visual effects to take us to fresh places and a great love story that spans 2 continents and more than 40 years. This is great work.
Well, of course, there could be a whole list of nominations from Map of the Human Heart, but unfortunately, the Academy isn't likely to see it that way. I thought your choice of Jeff Daniels was a very good one because I've seen a lot of war films, and Gettysburg in particular was a film that really seemed to understand what the daily experience of going into battle was like, and Daniels was able to embody that and trying to get his men to do what had to be done, even though it was quite clear that a lot of them were going to be killed.
It also turns out he isn't a professional soldier, as many of the people were there. He goes back, a university president.
Yes, he's
okay. So you have an educated man, and you see that, that here's a guy, all right, I have to do this job, and then I can get on with the rest of my life. I'm not going to change and become some martinet. I'm going to talk to people in an intelligent way.
Explain to them why they have to do this. Okay, when we come back, movies we think should be nominated for Best Picture, and interviews with Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks.
Continuing our memo to the Motion Picture Academy about which films and performances they should nominate, 3 movies are almost certain to be nominated in the Best Picture category this year. They are Schindler's List, The Piano, and The Fugitive. But I'd also like to see Robert Altman's Shortcuts nominated for Best Picture and Director. It was second to Schindler's List on my top 10 list, and I think it's a marvelous anthology of 22 burnt-out cases in Los Angeles, bad marriages, enervating work lives, interwoven by Altman as only he can do it, into ultimately a portrait of 20th century middle-class life, warts and all.
Baby, I've looked everywhere for you. I was at the trailer last night. You weren't there. Your car was there, but you weren't there.
Honey, where you been sleeping? Look at you.
Robert Altman's Shortcuts, certainly to my mind, deserves to be one of the 5 Best Picture nominees.
It's a very good film, and I had a hard time leaving it off my list of the 10 best films of the year. I found 10 films that somehow seemed to be better, and yet at the same time I gave it a very good review, and I admire Altman. So it was a problem in 1993 right down the list. I'm sure you had it too, with too many good films for a best 10
But
list.
the directing job, I don't know of another director that can juggle this many characters in a movie, and I don't know if you can either.
Well, certainly then he ought to be nominated for Best Director. I wouldn't argue with that. Another picture the Academy might overlook for Best Film was my choice as the year's second best film, and that was Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence. It was #2 on my list after Schindler's List. Scorsese is known as a poet of tough guys on mean streets, and here he made a period costume picture, very different from his usual work, based on a story by Edith Wharton about buried passions in the upper classes of 19th century New York.
I told him he should have married you.
And what did he say?
Oh, my darling, I leave you to find that out.
A lot of Scorsese's movies are up front and in your face. The Age of Innocence was a lot more subtle, a story about repression and social pressure and fear of doing the wrong thing. Yet Scorsese has never made a more passionate picture, and the closing scene is very strong and very sad as the hero realizes at the end of his life how much he has lost because he played by the rules. Now, Gene, I know that a lot of people probably think The Age of Innocence is going to be nominated as one of the top 5 pictures, and therefore it doesn't belong on this show. But as I said, I spent a lot of time out in Los Angeles over the holidays. I met some people, I talked to them, and one of the things I heard again and again was that the voters in L.A. despised The Age of Innocence because it was too long, it ran over budget, it's a costume picture, it's from some literary novel, it's all the things that they aren't really very interested in. Incidentally, I also heard that they despise Shortcuts because it puts down Los Angeles. So, the 2 films are in the same boat in a way.
Yeah, and they're 2 excellent pictures, and maybe they do have a New York sensibility, and maybe the stereotypes about L.A. and L.A. voters and Academy members are true. I'm not going to back off.
But maybe it's time for them to change those stereotypes.
It's been time for a long time. This year's Oscar race does have some special energy to it. Will it bring Steven Spielberg, the most successful director in history, his first Oscar for the Holocaust epic Schindler's List? Roger and I are hoping it will. Will light comedian Tom Hanks win his first Oscar for a serious role in the AIDS drama Philadelphia? I spoke to them both about the Oscar competition. Steven Spielberg has been routinely snubbed by the Motion Picture Academy. Remember 1985, The Color Purple? 11 nominations, but Spielberg was not nominated for Best Director. Incredible. How about 1982, when Spielberg's E.T. lost to Gandhi?
I have a wonderful cartoon on my wall. It's this wonderful cartoon of Gandhi and E.T. smiling and standing next to each other, and Gandhi has a whole armload of Academy Awards, and E.T. has a whole armload of cash. And they're standing right next to each other. And so it's just one of those wonderful cartoons that gives me perspective on everything.
With Schindler's List, Spielberg is now the favorite to win, but he refuses to be drawn into any public campaign.
What do you want to say to the Academy?
Please don't put me in this position. Because, you know, I'm not really looking to serve myself here.
Even after repeated inquiry, Spielberg dodged talk about Oscar and Schindler's List.
Well, I don't want to talk about the Oscars except to say that I've always never believed that the Oscars were meaningless, and all the meaning with the Academy Awards is personal. It has to do with the individual you ask. Everybody has a different personal meaning for it, and there's no one big, general feeling about it. Everybody, I think, looks at it in their own way.
But what about at the personal level? How does he feel about the outpouring of people thanking him for making a film that keeps history alive?
They're talking to me about the reminder of the Holocaust, the remembrance, which is what Schindler's List is. It's a remembrance, and when they talk to me about that, I almost feel unqualified to say you're welcome.
Across town, Tom Hanks, the star of Philadelphia, a movie that could also be nominated for Best Picture, talked about the unseemly competition that could result from films about the Holocaust and AIDS being pitted against each other.
Well, as far as an Oscar race goes, well, golly whizzers, I guess that's a terrible thing. It's like having 2 really good teams in the Super Bowl, I suppose. To have as much year-round, or year-end, just focus on something like Schindler's List and what it's talking about and Philadelphia and what we're talking about, is only a good thing for us and I think for motion pictures.
They both deserve Oscar nominations, and maybe they both deserve to win. I certainly feel that way about Spielberg as Best Director. Hanks, however, does have some stiff competition. And I do hope, as Hanks suggests, that the Oscar contest does bring attention to great films and even greater tragedies. We'll see, or whether it's this infighting over issues.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that this is going to be the year that Spielberg gets the Oscar for director, and as far as the Best Picture category is concerned, never in memory has there been one picture that so clearly stood out above all of the other pictures as Schindler's List.
I agree with you, Roger.
That's it for this special show. Next week we'll be back with reviews of some of the early movies of 1994, including Intersection, starring Richard Gere as an architect caught between his wife, Sharon Stone, and his mistress, Lolita Davidovich. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.